Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with a new video in the Magnus Carlsen series. Last video was about Magnus Carlsen as an 8-year-old and this video is about him as a 9-year-old. It was the Bayern Bank Hoffmann tournament in Germany. It was a third round and it was the 30th of October in the year 2000, a month before Carlsen's 10th birthday. A year and a few months after the games I showed you, which he played in his first tournament as an 8-year-old. He is black against Günther Kaiser, player with a rating of back then 2065, so a pretty useful player, pretty strong player. And Carlsen is black. He had no rating yet, he was unrated at this time. This is the position after knight c3 to e2 from Günther Kaiser. It was a Pirch defense, the position is about equal, but easier to play for black. Magnus, who is black, has a strong center and he starts rolling his pawns. d6, d5, kicking the bishop, bishop b3 and c5. Knight b5 was played. And here actually the best way for white is to sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns just to break up the massive black pawn center. He should have played knight takes f5, rook takes f5 and bishop takes d5. And then for example bishop b7. And after the exchange, position is about equal. The black pawn center is broken up and white has compensation for the piece. But Kaiser played knight b5 and d4. The pawns keep rolling. There is a quote, a nice quote from the book that Carlsen's first coach Simon Agdestein wrote, a book called Wonder Boy. And the quote is, "It's hard to imagine a better way of center control." And there was an internet posting that I saw and it said, "Wow, I do not remember the last time I saw black playing the 4 pawns attack variation of the Pirch defense." Of course, that 4 pawns attack variation of the Pirch defense does not exist, but this game shows that it can occur on the board. Okay, queen has to go, queen d2. Queen g3 would have been a better square for the queen, and then the position is only slightly better for black, but now Magnus takes control with his massive pawn center. Bishop b7, developing the bishop. Knight f4, trying to activate his pieces. a6. And here the knight has to go. Knight a3 would have been a better move with the idea to go to c4. But Kaiser played knight d5, attacking the queen. Queen e5 and then knight b c7, attacking the rook. Rook a7 and queen a5. Kaiser is desperately trying to play around the black pawn center and activate his pieces. And with queen a5 he attacks the pawn on c5. Here Carlsen should have played bishop c6, which is the strongest move. And the idea is to win material with rook c8, as the knight on c7 has no squares. Also the knight retreat to b5, which happens in the game, is not an option as the bishop on c6 covers that square. So what could have happened is, for example, f3, and then queen takes c5 would have been a blunder because of rook takes c7, and white cannot take back because the queen is hanging, but rook c8 would have been a good move here and black dominates. Carlsen played knight d7 instead to protect the pawn on c5, which is also okay, but not the strongest move. g3, rook c8. And now white saves his knight with knight b5 because the pawn on a6 is pinned. Rook a8. Now of course knight b5 is hanging, And the knight on d5 is also hanging, so the knight has to go back to c7, attacking the rook. And here Carlsen found the strongest move. He took on d5, knight takes a8, and rook takes a8, and black has won 2 pieces for a rook. And not just that, he has an overwhelming position. Black is clearly winning here. Bishop a4, bishop e6, king h2, f4, another move of this pawn center. Queen e1, look at the white pieces, all his heavy pieces on the bottom rank. Knight f6, bishop c6, attacking the rook, rook c8, bishop b7, rook c7, bishop a8, and here Carlsen exchanges white's only active piece, bishop d5, take, queen e2, and here Carlsen played f takes g3 check, and Günther Kaiser resigned. Why did he resign? If he takes that pawn, there is knight e3, forking both rooks, costing more material. And if he doesn't take the pawn, but for example plays the king to g2, that's not good because of knight f4 check, winning the queen. Well, let's look at the last possibility then, king g1. Well, then there's also knight f4 attacking the queen. If the queen goes to g4, then there's h5 winning the queen, because he cannot take on g3 because of the knight fork. And if the queen, goes to d2, then there is g takes f2. If the queen takes back, there is another knight fork on h3, and if the rook takes back, there is e3 with another fork. If the king goes in a corner, there is also e3, and it's very clear that white is not going to survive this. So a nice victory from 9-year-old Magnus against a pretty strong opponent of 2065 rating. And it's very clear if you look at the other video, the video of Magnus as an 8-year-old, it's very clear what enormous strides he has made in that 1 year and a few months, having become a much stronger player. And of course this was not the end of Magnus Carlsen's improvement in playing strength, it was only the beginning. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to my channel. This is Rick from Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.